They call me the stain on the family. Never to my face, at least not in those words. But you know when you've been labeled. I was the disappointment, the one who couldn't keep a marriage, couldn't climb a ladder fast enough, couldn't afford to play perfect like the rest of them. Even my daughter, Camille, started to look at me the way they did, like I was a mess she had to apologize for. Then came Thanksgiving. I questioned something I wasn't supposed to, and they finally said it with their full chest. Threw me out, told me I didn't belong. What they didn't know was that I'd won the lottery the day before. $8.3 million. I walked out of that house calm, smiling. And by the time I closed my car door, I had made a decision that would split our family down the middle and free me for good. What happened next was rather unexpected. I will tell you everything. First, let me thank you for your continuous support. If you love stories like this one, support us by subscribing to this channel and comment where you are watching us from. It will be great to hear from you. Now let's jump into the details of what happened. They never said it outright, not with words, but it was in their eyes. The way my brother's jaw would tighten when I walked into a room. The way my mother's voice dropped half an octave when she introduced me to her friends. This is my son, Darren. He's working things out. They never had to call me the stain. I wore the label just fine without their help. I was 43, divorced, and working nights at a logistics warehouse that made you feel every minute of every hour. Forklifts, fluorescent lights, and the faint, permanent smell of cardboard and sweat. It paid the bills, kept the lights on in the small apartment I shared with my daughter, Camille, who was 20 now, in college, and inching closer each day to a life I hoped would outshine mine. I used to dream bigger. Music once, then construction. For a while, I thought I'd open a little garage, fix up old cars, and teach Camille how to rebuild engines. But life has a way of kicking those kinds of dreams out of you slowly, until you stop reaching and just settle into survival. I never complained. I did what I had to do. But somehow, to my family, it was never enough. Camille had started seeing it their way lately. Not in a cruel way. She wasn't cruel. But in the way she avoided looking at me when they made jokes. The way she gently corrected my stories in front of them, like she needed to protect them from my version of events. I could see it all so clearly now. She was learning to stand with them, to survive in their world. And to do that, she had to keep me in the lesson learned category. Not someone to emulate, just someone to visit. That year, Thanksgiving was at my younger brother Marcus's house. Big house, 3-car garage, wine fridge, all the symbols. He'd married money, then started acting like he made it himself. His wife, Denise, sent the text, "Hope you and Camille can make it. Bring a pie or something easy," smiley face. That, or something easy, was her way of telling me not to overreach. Like even the dessert had a hierarchy. I told myself I wasn't going to go. I wasn't in the mood to be tolerated. But Camille asked me to come. Said it wouldn't be the same without me. She even called me her +1, like we were in on a joke together. That made me smile. It was enough to convince me. We picked up a pecan pie from the bakery near our place. I even put on a button-up shirt and cologne I hadn't touched in months. She wore something beige and grown-up, her curls pulled back in a way that made her look 10 years older. When she stepped out of her room, she looked like a woman, and I felt like a shadow. The drive over was quiet. She played music from her phone, something mellow and clean, nothing like the stuff she used to blare in high school. We didn't talk much. She scrolled. I focused on the road. Marcus's house was already packed when we got there. Shiny cars lined the driveway. I parked 2 blocks down, didn't want to mess up his landscaping. Inside, it was everything I expected. Smelled like cinnamon, turkey, and pretension. The kids were running wild. The kitchen was crowded with people who called themselves family, but treated me like a recurring inconvenience. Marcus greeted Camille with open arms, lifted her up like she was royalty. When I came in behind her, he offered a one-arm hug, barely touching my shoulder. "Hey man, made it, huh?" "Yeah," Camille insisted. He laughed, like that made sense. Like I needed an invitation through my daughter. Denise took one look at my store-bought pie and said, "Oh, good. We can use it for the dessert table." Marcus's mom brought one too, but options are always fun. Translation: we didn't need it, but we'll pretend. I did what I always did. Found a corner, blended in, kept to myself. I wasn't there to make waves. I was there for Camille. Dinner started out normal. Small talk. Dry jokes. Football on mute in the background. But it didn't take long for the shift to happen. "So, Darren," someone said. "Uncle Jeff, maybe. I don't even remember. Still working nights, huh?" "Yep," I nodded. "Pays the bills. Must be tough. You ever think about going back to school or something? Trade work, maybe?" It wasn't a question. It was a challenge. Marcus chimed in. "I know a guy hiring in HVAC. Might be good for someone with your background." Someone with your background. The wording wasn't accidental. I opened my mouth to respond, but Camille jumped in. "Dad's fine where he's at. He's always been the hardest worker I know." I smiled. Briefly. Then my mother added, from across the table, "Hard work's fine. But sometimes you gotta ask yourself why you keep ending up back at square one." That stung. Even Camille winced. I took a deep breath. Maybe square one's not so bad when you're raising a kid on your own. Silence. Marcus laughed awkwardly. "Come on, it's Thanksgiving. Let's not get all deep." But it was already too late. I felt it rising in my chest, the years of being the family's punchline. The side glances, the fake concern, the barely veiled contempt. And suddenly, I was done. "I just think," I said slowly. "It's funny how everyone here has so much to say about what I should be doing, but none of you ever asked what I've actually been through." My mother rolled her eyes. "Darren, please. Not tonight." "No," I said. "Actually, yeah, tonight. Because every year, I show up here and smile and nod like it's all fine. And it's not. You all act like I'm some kind of burden you have to tolerate. Like Camille should be pitted for having me as a father. And I've had enough." Marcus stood, napkin in hand. "If you're going to start something, maybe this isn't the place." "You're right," I said, rising too. "This isn't the place. It never was." Camille looked panicked. "Dad." I turned to her. "I'm sorry you had to hear this. But I'm not sorry for saying it." She opened her mouth, but what came out wasn't defense. "Maybe if you didn't come in expecting everyone to attack you, they wouldn't." That one landed hard. I stared at her, and she wouldn't meet my eyes. That's when I knew I wasn't just the stain to them. I'd become one to her, too. I nodded once. "Okay." I picked up my coat, left the pie where it was, and walked out into the cold. I didn't look back. But when I got home, I did one last thing before I let the night settle. I pulled the lottery ticket from my wallet, bought the night before on a whim, the numbers still fresh in my mind, and scanned it with shaking fingers. $8.3 million. I blinked. Then I smiled. Not because of the money, because I didn't say a word about it. And tomorrow, I'd start making decisions that would change everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of the lottery win. Not even because of the blow-up at dinner. I didn't sleep because of her, because of what Camille said and how easily it came out of her mouth. Maybe if you didn't come in expecting everyone to attack you, they wouldn't. That line. It bounced around in my head like a marble in a glass jar. All that night, all the next morning, as I sat alone in my apartment with the blinds still drawn, that sentence kept playing. Camille didn't raise her voice. She didn't mean it cruelly. That was what made it worse. She believed it. She thought I was the one poisoning the air, like I walked into family dinners carrying my own storm cloud, daring them to strike me first. And maybe, for years, I did. But only because I already knew what they were going to say. Because they'd said it all before, if not to my face, then in whispers behind my back. They never gave me the benefit of the doubt. And now, neither did my daughter. I should have been angry. But mostly, I was numb. I sat in the living room, holding that winning ticket in one hand and a coffee mug in the other, staring at nothing. The sun rose, and I didn't move. For the first time in decades, I didn't feel broke. But that didn't mean I felt rich either. Not yet. I was in shock. Emotional, financial, spiritual shock. $8.3 million. I checked it again, convinced I'd read it wrong. I even drove back to the gas station, used the scanner on the wall just to make sure. Same numbers. Same win. No cameras. No giant check. Just me. Alone. A millionaire with no one to tell. And maybe that was a gift. Because in that silence, I started to think. Really think. I didn't tell Camille. Not that day. Not the next. When she texted the morning after Thanksgiving, just a simple "you okay?" I left it on read. Not to punish her. Just to breathe. I needed air. Space. Time to understand the difference between silence and peace. The next week, I called out of work and said I had the flu. My supervisor didn't argue. I'd never taken a sick day in 7 years. Hell, I barely took lunch. But I needed the time. I needed to build something before they found a way to tear it down. I started with a lawyer. Her name was Natalie Banks. Mid-40s, sharp eyes, no nonsense. She specialized in lottery winners, and her office looked like it came from a different planet. Minimalist, expensive, silent except for the hum of filtered air. She didn't blink when I told her my story. Anonymous claim? She asked. I nodded. She laid out my options. Trusts, private LLCs, how to shield myself. How to make sure no one could touch what I didn't want them to. She paused halfway through the meeting and asked, any dependents? That caught me off guard. I opened my mouth. Camille, I said. My daughter. Natalie tapped her pen. Is she a beneficiary? That was the moment I realized I didn't know. I need to think about it, I said. She nodded, made a note, and didn't push. That night, Camille called again. This time, I answered. Hey, she said, cautious. Hey. Long pause. Too long. I've been thinking about Thanksgiving, she said finally. Me too. I didn't mean to hurt you, Dad. I didn't reply right away. I let her sit in it. I just meant, sometimes you get so tense around them. Like you're already mad before anyone says anything. I exhaled. Because I know what's coming, Camille. I've been hearing the same shade of judgment for 20 years. I know, she said. But I'm stuck in the middle. You're not, I said gently. You just think you are. She went quiet again. I softened my voice. I get that it's hard for you. I know you love them. You want everyone to get along. But the price of peace can't always come out of my pocket. There was a sniffle on the other end. I didn't mean to make you feel alone. But you did, I said. And I need some time to figure out how to live with that. Are you okay? She asked. I looked around the apartment, still small, still quiet, but suddenly full of possibility. I will be, I said. But I'm not going to chase anyone for understanding anymore. Not even you. I want to make it right. You can't, not all at once. But showing up with honesty instead of shame? That's a start. She said nothing, but I felt her nod. The days that followed, I didn't go back to work. I met with a financial advisor. Bought a house under an LLC. Not a mansion. Just a clean, modern 3-bedroom with a fenced-in yard, hardwood floors, and a porch where I could drink coffee without hearing sirens. For the first time in my life, I had space that was mine. No landlord. No shared walls. No reminders of struggle hanging from the ceiling. I left the apartment to Camille. I didn't tell her what I'd done. I just moved out. She came home to a note. Place is yours. I'm not far. Don't be a stranger. Dad. The family started sniffing around soon after. Melanie DM'd me on Facebook. Hope you're well. Heard you made some big changes. Let's catch up soon. I didn't respond. Marcus texted. Just checking in. Mom said you're off the grid. Still no reply. I wasn't being petty. I was being free. Because silence, when you choose it, isn't empty. It's sacred. Let them wonder. Let them gossip. They used to call me the stain on the family. But now I was the space they couldn't reach. And I was just getting started. They always told me I was bad with money. Every birthday card from my mother came with a dig. Don't spend it all in one place, Darren. Every holiday conversation with my brother ended with unsolicited advice. You gotta think long-term, man. You're not 20 anymore. They made it sound like financial ruin was part of my DNA. Like I couldn't be trusted with more than $200 at a time. So I took special satisfaction in watching them squirm when the whispers began. It started with Tasha, my cousin on my dad's side, one of the few who still treated me like a human being. She worked at the gas station where I bought the ticket. I hadn't told her anything, but someone on staff must have talked. Said a man who looked like me hit the jackpot. Said he came in alone and left shaking like he'd just seen God. She didn't say anything right away. Not to me. Not to Camille. But a week later, I saw it, the comment. Buried under one of Marcus's family posts about his blessed life, Tasha wrote, "Funny how the ones you all dismiss end up living the life you wanted." I didn't like it. I didn't engage. But it started the fire. By morning, my phone buzzed like a Vegas slot machine. Texts from numbers I hadn't saved in years. Heard something crazy, can you call me? Wait, are you rich now? Is it true? Did you actually win? Marcus called twice. Left a voicemail the second time. Hey, Darren, just checking in. There's a rumor going around. Not that it matters, but, you know, If something's changed, we should talk. I let it go to voicemail. Melanie messaged me, too. Said she missed having me around. Said Camille looked sad lately, and maybe I could step in and be there for her more. That one almost made me laugh. They were scrambling, and I wasn't saying a word. Because silence, when they expect begging, becomes the loudest message you can send. Camille showed up unannounced 2 days later. She knocked, then knocked again. I debated pretending I wasn't home, but I saw her eyes through the peephole, red, tired, and unsure. I opened the door. She looked around the house, lips parting like she didn't expect it to be real. Is this where you live now? Yep. It's beautiful. Thanks. She walked in slowly, like she didn't want to disturb anything. She stood in the middle of the living room, hands wrapped around herself like armor. I heard, she said softly. I waited. I heard about the lottery. I nodded. You didn't tell me. I didn't tell anyone. She nodded, biting her lip. Why not me? Because you didn't believe in me, I said, not unkindly. Not when it counted. That's not fair. It is, I said. But I'm not blaming you. I'm just adjusting. To what? To being a man who doesn't explain himself anymore. That made her flinch. She looked around the house again. Is it all yours? Every inch. She blinked fast, like she was trying not to cry. I feel like I don't know you. I think that's because, for the first time, I stopped letting you see me through their eyes. We stood there in silence. Then I asked, do you want to sit? She nodded. I poured us both some tea. Nothing fancy, just something warm. We sat on the couch, not touching, but not far either. I want to be better, she said. I believe you. She looked surprised. I just don't know if you want me in your life anymore, she added. I do, I said. But only if you're here as my daughter, not as their messenger. She nodded slowly. I'm done speaking for them. Then we're okay. She let out a shaky breath, and we sat there, sipping tea, not trying to fix it, just letting it settle. Later that night, Marcus called again. I let it ring. Then he texted, we know. Everyone knows. Can we please talk? And then, 2 hours later. Family brunch this Sunday. Would be good to have you there. I stared at the message for a long time. Family brunch. The same people who tossed me out like expired milk were now breaking bread and hoping I'd sit at their table again. This time with a side of financial curiosity. But I didn't need revenge. I had something better. Distance. I replied the next morning with just one word. No. No explanation. No flourish. Just clarity. I met with Natalie again later that week. Finalized more protections. Set up a private donation fund under an alias. Began mapping out who I'd help, how much, and when. Camille was on the list. The rest? I closed the book. Let them wonder. Let them spin stories and sit in their own discomfort. Because the numbers didn't lie. And now that I had the power to choose, I was choosing peace. On my own terms. There's a kind of power in being unavailable. Not just unreachable, unbothered. I wasn't ignoring them to be cruel. I just finally understood something they never wanted me to. That I didn't owe them my time. Or my presence. Or my story. They used to say I held grudges. That I got stuck in the past. But the truth was, I just remembered things too clearly for their comfort. I remembered every look, every backhanded compliment. Every time someone said, he means well, like that was the nicest thing they could find to say about me. Now, with the money safely protected, the new house in my name, and no one's opinion shaping my next step, I did something they never expected. I lived. Quietly. Purposefully. I started each day at 6 a.m., not for work, but for me. I ran the trails by the river, slow and steady. I made my own coffee, read the paper, sat on the porch just to feel the breeze. I painted the garage myself, even though I could have hired someone. I liked the work. It reminded me I could still build something with my own hands. I bought books, cooked real food, took long drives with no destination, and I didn't post a single photo. One Sunday, Camille stopped by with groceries. You didn't have to do that, I said as she started unloading. I wanted to. She brought stuff I never bought for myself. Berries, herbs, fancy olive oil. I raised an eyebrow at the basil. Figured you could try something new, she said, smiling. We made dinner together that night. Pasta from scratch. Took us 2 hours, and the kitchen was a mess by the end, but we laughed the whole way through. It was the first time in years we'd cooked like that. No tension, No roles. Just two people rebuilding something slowly, carefully. Over dinner, she asked, "Do you think you'll ever talk to them again?" I twirled the noodles on my fork, chewing that question more than the food. "I don't hate them," I said, "but I don't need them." "That sounds lonely." "No," I said. "It sounds like freedom." She nodded. "I get that. I just, I don't want to lose both sides of my life." "You don't have to. But I can't be the bridge anymore. If they want to know me, they'll have to cross something, too." She looked down at her plate. "They won't. Then they've made their choice." I wasn't bitter when I said it. Just clear. Marcus tried again the following week. Sent a long message about starting fresh, about coming together for Mom's birthday, about how life's too short to hold grudges. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent a birthday card to my mother, handwritten. Simple. "Hope the day treats you well. Darren." No check. No cash. Just words. I waited. She never replied. That said more than anything she could have written. A month later, I attended a local community fundraiser. Not as a donor, just a man with time to give. I stood in the back, helped fold chairs, passed out food trays. No one knew who I was. No one asked. It felt good to just be. That night, I wrote a quiet check to cover the next event. Signed it anonymously. They never found out who paid for it. I didn't need credit anymore. Camille came by again, this time with a notebook. "I want to start documenting your story," she said. "Like, for me. For us. So I don't forget who you are, not who they told me you were." That hit me hard. We sat on the porch, and she asked questions about my childhood, my first job, my favorite song. Things no one had ever cared enough to ask. I told her about the first time I held her. How terrified I was. How I had no clue what I was doing, but knew right then I'd die trying to figure it out. "You never failed me," she said softly. I raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that? Even when I didn't see you clearly, you never disappeared." "That matters." I swallowed hard. I did disappear for a while. But now I'm back, for real this time. And I was. But not for them. For me. For her. For peace. I didn't expect closure. Didn't need an apology. The silence was the apology. Their absence was the confirmation. Because people don't go quiet when they're proud of how they treated you. In the old life, I would have waited forever for an invitation back in. To be accepted, forgiven, included. But in this life, I didn't need the seat. I built the table, and I sat at it alone. Peacefully, proudly, unbothered. You can feel a lie before you hear it. It shows up in the way people talk about you when you're not there. The way your name starts floating into conversations like a punchline or a warning. And once they realize they can't control you anymore, they start to rewrite the story, loudly, publicly, as if volume can cover guilt. That's what was happening now. They couldn't reach me, so they started reaching my reputation. Camille told me about it first. "They're saying you're going through something," she said one evening, her voice tight. "That you've changed. That the money's making you difficult." I nodded. "Expected that. And they think you're being manipulated. That you're turning your back on family just because things are finally going good. They're not used to me having power," I said. "They think anything that isn't struggle is a phase." She looked down, ashamed. "They think I'm helping you pull away." "Are you?" She met my eyes. "I'm trying to protect you now." "Then let them talk." It was Marcus who finally made the move. The setup was obvious, thinly veiled in celebration, staged like it was about someone else. A retirement party for our uncle, held at a fancy venue across town. Everyone invited. Formal attire, open bar, and a family group text full of comments like, "Hope Darren makes it this time. Would love to see you, brother. Let's start the new year right. We miss your energy." They didn't miss me. They missed control. Camille said she wasn't going unless I wanted to go. I told her I'm going. But not for them. For me. When I walked in that night, everything stopped. I didn't come in loud. No fancy watch. No designer suit. Just a dark blazer, clean shoes, calm energy. But that silence when they saw me, that was loud. Marcus approached first, trying to play casual. "Glad you came, man," he said. "Been too long." "Sure has." He motioned around the room. "Everyone's been wondering how you're doing." I nodded. "I'm great." Then Melanie joined, glass of wine in hand. "Darren, you look different. Refreshed." I smiled. "Peace looks good on me." They didn't laugh. Just awkward glances. Then my mother appeared. older than I remembered. She stared at me like she didn't know what version I was anymore. "Glad you showed up," she said softly. "You say that like I've been hiding," I replied. She flinched. I didn't mean to sting, but I wasn't going to lie either. We made it halfway through the night before the real reason I was there became obvious. Uncle Jeff raised his glass. "To family," he said. "Because no matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, blood is blood." Everyone nodded, murmured cheers. And then Marcus stepped up beside him. "I just want to say something," he began, holding a microphone with that smug smile he wore whenever he was about to make something uncomfortable sound inspirational. He looked right at me. "I know some of us have drifted apart, and I know we don't always get things right. But this family, we fight, we forgive, we move forward. That's what we do." The crowd murmured again. Eyes shifted toward me. Then Marcus added, "We've missed you, Darren. And we hope you're ready to come back to the table." There it was. The invitation masked as a moment of unity. The ambush. Camille glanced at me nervously. Waiting. I stood up slowly. Calm. Measured. I walked to the front and took the mic out of his hand. "Appreciate the kind words," I said into the mic. "But I think we need to get real for a second." The room quieted. "For years, I was the joke," I said, scanning the crowd. The cautionary tale. The black sheep. The one who meant well, but never quite measured up. People shifted uncomfortably. I showed up anyway. Every time. Sat through your jokes. Smiled through your judgment. Stayed quiet while you picked me apart like I wasn't in the room. Melanie scoffed softly. I heard it. I kept going. "You all talk about forgiveness, but you never once asked if I needed an apology. You talk about togetherness, but only when it benefits you." Now they were squirming. Marcus tried to cut in. "This isn't it is the place," I said, "because I've spent my whole life being silent in the right places. And look where that got me." I looked around the room. "You don't miss me. You miss the version of me who tolerated you. The one who kept showing up, hoping you'd see past the struggle and find the man underneath." I let that hang. But now I'm not struggling. I'm thriving. And it makes you uncomfortable. Because I didn't ask for your help. Because I didn't make you part of the victory. Gasps. Whispers. But I didn't stop. I didn't come here to mend fences. I came here to show you that I'm not hiding. I've just outgrown the space where you kept me small. I looked at Camille, gave her a nod, and handed the mic back. No applause. Just stunned silence. And then I walked out. Later that night, Camille texted me. "You didn't just speak. You reclaimed the whole room." I didn't respond right away. I just sat on the porch, listening to the stillness around me. No more begging. No more explaining. Just peace. On my terms. You'd think it would feel like victory. That after years of humiliation, exile, being spoken about like I was a scar on the family name, finally walking into that room and speaking my truth would feel like a win. But it didn't feel like triumph. It felt like release. Like standing in a house you built with your own two hands and realizing you don't owe a single soul the blueprint. I didn't hear from Marcus after that night. Not a call. Not a text. Melanie posted a cryptic quote the next day on Instagram. Something about loyalty and betrayal, but I didn't care enough to read it twice. My mother never said a word. No apology. No defense. Just silence. And I finally understood. Silence wasn't absence. It was proof of guilt. Because people only go quiet when they've run out of lies that sound good in a crowd. Camille called a few days later. "You all right?" she asked. "Better than I've ever been." "Everyone's still talking about it," she said. "About what you said. About how calm you were." "That's what peace does," I said. "It turns fire into facts." She was quiet a moment, then said, "I'm proud of you." That hit me harder than anything else. "Thanks, baby," I said. But I didn't do it for pride. I did it for distance. The next month, I took a trip alone. No beach. No luxury resort. Just a cabin in the woods outside Asheville, where the only sounds were leaves, birds, and the kind of silence you can't buy. Only earn. I left my phone inside most days. I cooked simple meals. I read old books. I sat on the porch for hours without needing to speak. And one night, I took out the notebook Camille had started, her little project to write down who I really was. I added a few pages of my own. Not for her. For me. I wrote about the night she was born, the way her hand grabbed my finger in the hospital. I wrote about the first time I cried alone in the kitchen, trying to figure out how to afford her school clothes. I wrote about every time I bit my tongue while my family smirked, about every time I showed up when it would have been easier to vanish. I wrote it all because this was the version of me they never saw and never deserved to. When I came home, there was a card in my mailbox. No name, just my address, handwritten. Inside was a folded note. You did what I never had the courage to do. I see you now. I recognized the handwriting immediately. My mother. I didn't cry. I didn't crumble. But I sat down for a long time, just holding that note. It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't enough to rebuild anything. But it was real. And sometimes real is the only apology you ever get. I tucked the card in the back of the notebook, under the pages about Camille. That's where it belonged. Not out front. Not framed. Just recorded. Remembered. Then I turned the page and wrote something new. Peace isn't quiet. It's chosen. I never rejoined the group chat. Never showed up for another brunch. Never explained myself again. Because I didn't need to. I wasn't the stain. I was the thread. The one they pulled too tight for too long. The one they never thought would hold. But I did. Not because of the money, but because I finally stopped asking to be understood and started living like I was already whole. If you've ever been made to feel like the embarrassment of your own family, remember this. You are not the problem for setting boundaries. They are the problem for crossing them. Sometimes the only way to heal is to walk away quietly and live better without needing them to notice. Would you have stayed or walked away? Drop your thoughts below. Your story matters too.